and welcome to the Thursday, June 20th regular meeting of the school committee. I would invite those who are here in the studio to please rise if you'd like to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the
Allegiance
flag
to the flag
of the United
States of
States
America and to the republic to which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty
with
and
liberty
justice for
and
all.
justice for all.
So just as we're starting, just want to point out for anyone who is watching from home that we have our chair, Mina Barath, is participating remotely so that all of our votes we will do by roll call here. And at this point, we have an opportunity for public comment. I don't know if there's anybody hiding back there, but seeing no one, we can move right into recognitions.
So I just have one recognition, and I just wanted to thank the administrative team for all of their work in the 1920 school year, 18-19 school year, embarking on the 1920 school year. So the high school administration, led by Mr. Bishop, the middle school, led by Mr. Keller, Vanessa Bolello at Hopkins, Ann Carver at Elmwood, and Lauren DeBow at Marathon. So thank you to them for all the hard work this year. I think our kids got great experiences all around. So yeah, a good year.
Thank you, Dr. Kavanagh, for calling that out. There's absolutely no doubt that the leadership of the administration makes a huge difference on the culture that we have in the schools and the experience that our students have. I would also like to acknowledge both you and Ms. Parsons for a strong partnership in leading the district this year. And the most notable for me being drawing out the strategic plan in your very first year. It is quite a feat that you were able to reach out to so many people and continue the work seamlessly that was done by the previous leadership in administration. So your work is admirable. Thank you.
Thank you, Weena.
There are no other
I have,
recognitions. Go ahead.
sorry, Nancy.
Nope, it's okay. I don't have video of you, so I didn't mean to. I just can't see you. Go ahead.
There's one other one that I want to call out is Sue McClure, who has been doing our minutes for years. And she has chosen to step out of that role. So I just want to recognize that having her help has meant a lot to us. She has always been so thoughtful and timely in her work. And I don't know if Jen wants to add something to it. She was the one working with her this past year.
Absolutely. She does such a, I feel like I don't want to say thankless, that's not the right word, but I mean to just
Behind
sit
the
and
scenes.
exactly. And just go through the meeting, with a fine tooth comb and draft all the details of it is such a huge weight lifted off of our shoulders for sure. So I definitely wish her all the best. I know she's got a lot on her plate, so I hope all goes well here, and this is one less thing for her to worry about.
All right, then we can move into the superintendent's report.
All right. So the superintendent's report really has just those sort of end of year items. The first one, we have some statistics for the class of 2019, and I'll talk a little bit more about the ones in your packet. So you can see that 92% of the class of 2019, which is 260 students, went off to four-year colleges. Less than 1%, so only one student went to a two-year college. One student went to a prep school. 5 students went off to full-time employment. 3 students are doing a gap year before they go to college. 1 student is in a career ed program. 2 students have gone into military service, and we had 9 of our international students return home. So there's just the breakdown of that in numbers of students and in percentages. And the last statistic on that page is the average SAT scores, and you can see that those were calculated by using each graduate's highest evidence-based reading and writing score and the highest math score. So you may see another number in the documents that are inside the packet, but this is our students' highest iteration of the best performance on the test.
And Dr. Kavanaugh, can you tell us what the asterisk is for right after four-year college? Or am I seeing things?
No, yeah.
You know what, I don't actually have that information because when I cut this out of the guidance report, I didn't know what that is, so
Okay.
I can get back to you on that.
Yep, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Some of the data that you have in your packet, you have the list of colleges that accepted Hopkinton High School applicants from the class of 2019. And you can see that that is quite a lengthy list.
Lengthy, it's nice to see so many different colleges represented.
It is really nice to see how many colleges are there, and you can, on the next page, or in the next report, you can see the number of applications that went to all of those colleges, and I think that that's pretty interesting, and they are in descending order. So, for example, UMass Amherst, 124 students in that class all applied to UMass Amherst, which I think is kind of interesting. And so, as a guidance department, you might sit and kind of contemplate, why does that happen? UMass has exceptionally great programs and probably comes at a good price. But some of the others are interesting. Why do we always have 48 kids or 40 kids applying to Boston College and Boston University? Aside from the fact that Professor Tyler teaches at Boston University. But that is why.
It's a big draw.
I think there's some lineage in town for BC too.
Yes.
I feel like half the Hopkinton's population
Yes.
graduated from BC. Sometimes that's how I feel. I feel like an outsider
lot.
since I didn't graduate from BC.
Yeah, and to look at, and I guess some of the other statistical data here that's interesting to me is, we can have 20 kids who are applying to Dartmouth or 17 kids who are applying to Harvard, and this year, I think, and Mr. Bishop, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we had 3 students get into Dartmouth this year, no one getting into Harvard this year. So as you look at this, sometimes it's just really unpredictable as to where kids will go. There's that sort of myth that says if Dartmouth takes 1 kid, they will only take 1 kid, but we have 3. So, it's just interesting data. And this is really that 30,000-foot view kind of data. We also have information that comes out of the guidance department that will tell us, each of the students' GPAs in descending order. So if the first student on the list has a GPA of 5.4321, it will tell you all of the colleges that particular student applied to, and then it will tell you where he or she matriculated. We don't share that information publicly, only because if you saw the name of the college, you would be able to very likely determine the student and then know what that student's GPA was. So just for confidentiality reasons, we don't share that information. And the last piece that you have in here are all of the test ranges. So you have information from the ACT, and you have information from the plan test and the PSAT and the SAT, and what this data will give you is the middle 50%. So what you're seeing there means that 25% performed above that range and 25% performed below that range, and then you get to see the mean for all of those. And you can, one of the things that the colleges will do is that they will tell you what the median 50% were in past years as kids applied. So the very nice part of that is that if you are thinking about applying to a particular school, you've kind of got a little bit of a framework to say, am I a logical candidate for that school or am I not? So I don't know if there's any questions about any of this, but
No questions. It was just interesting to look at. It's fun to see all the, like you said, it was cool to see all the different places kids are interested in applying to, and all the ones are kind of interesting. The places that only received 1 application, because they're so all over the place. So it's good. Just shows our kids are doing lots of different things and looking for lots of
And there
different
was
things.
a pack who applied to Clemson University, which I found fascinating.
Yeah, that's I didn't
What's
notice
going
that too.
on? Migration to the south. The winters are so hard. Is that?
But those are the kinds of questions that I have when I look at this data,
Yeah.
right? And then it's interesting to see it year to year.
Yeah.
If there's a spike at, the University of Delaware, why, right?
Right.
Right.
All right, just a couple of additional pictures. We've got Flag Day over at Marathon. At the bottom, you can see Mark and Nancy on their way out. They are this year's retirees, so they were the leaders of the parade. This is just a quick shot from the Hopkins School. Doug Scott's engineering students design a toy, and then they bring it over to Hopkins, and the students review the toy and give the high school kids feedback. Just a candid here. These are some middle school kids. Assistant Superintendent Jen Parson and I went over on the next to last day of school, and there was a lot of winding down, a little bit of Connect Four. That particular student challenged me to a game and told me he would definitely beat me. So I declined politely. I didn't have the stamina to be beaten.
That would be quite the bragging right, so to say you beat the superintendent.
It would have been. Oh my goodness. This is the departure at Marathon. I just thought these pictures were really very sentimental for me. Because you'll remember that we had the pictures of the kids at the beginning of the school year getting off the buses for the very first time. And the way this works is when the buses are all queued up, the kids kind of, parade on past and get in the buses, but then the teachers on the last day all line up and wave to the students as they're leaving. It was a pretty misty experience. It was nice. This slide is kind of a fib. On this slide, it said varsity baseball were going to be in the state finals tonight, and then they were rained out of tonight, and so then they were going to be there tomorrow night. But Mr. Bishop just informed me on his way in that the game has been moved to Saturday at noon. So, for anyone
Exciting.
interested in going, it is exciting. Yeah, this is our third team to go to a state championship this year. It's pretty amazing.
Now, are the seniors able to participate in that even? Okay, let's see.
Go ahead. Yeah. All right. So these are the enrollment data from June 6th that I had presented to you 2 weeks ago. I know it's very small on that screen, and I think the more important slide is the next one, where you can see how many more have been approved. So, for example, in grade 2, the previous slide would have said that we had 5 students who had been approved, and now it says 8. So you can see the pluses. In grade 2, there are 3 more than last time. Grade 4, 3 more than last time. Grade 5, 1 more than last time. Grade 6, 2 more than last time. Grade 7, increased by 1. Grade 8, increased by 4. Grade 9, increased by 3. Grade 10 by 1, and grade 11 by 1. And you're starting to see big pockets of kids at grades 2, 4, and obviously 9 again. Grade 6 is also at 5. So the numbers are growing. That means that we've had 19 additional students since June 6th. One thing that you probably not seeing on here is that you'll have a couple of kids who will unenroll in the Hopkinton Public Schools along the way too. So when we look at the total enrollment at 3,866, that's everybody right now. That includes Keefe Tech, it includes Norfolk Aggie, it includes anybody who is outside the district. So we'll have a more accurate number of how many kids are at each grade level as we work through the summer. K enrollment now has hit 259, which I believe is 1 student greater than what NESDEC predicted. Their prediction was 258. So that could be climbing. Last year, we thought we were going to have 204 students at the start of school, and we had 264 students in kindergarten. So we'll have to see where those numbers go.
And am I right? It felt like there was a big surge kind of in the July, early August time period.
Even if people do funny things, even if they buy a home and they move in on, the 8th of July, sometimes they just don't get around to getting into Power School and doing their enrollment till, say, August 1st, right? It just doesn't seem to be, pending, something that's really important for them. So, yeah, that can happen.
So what is the classroom average right now, the number of kids in each class with this number coming in?
So I think if we look at kindergarten, they're probably at like 20.
Okay.
And last year we had that issue of, we thought we were going to have very low class sizes, 17, 18, and we ended up pushing that up over 20 because of the number of kids who had come in. And what we had decided to do at that time was to add paras rather than to add a classroom. So we've already planned for an additional classroom this year. I'm just hoping that, the numbers are stable enough to sustain.
Okay.
And that's all we've got.
Thank you, Dr. Kavanaugh. And I just want to piggyback on the comment that Meg made about the classroom sizes, especially for the younger grades. I'm grateful that you're thinking of, you're planning ahead. And last year, too, to your point, that was the expectation. But obviously, as the classroom sizes increase, especially in younger grades, it's, the student experience can vary greatly. I mean, you know that better than anyone else. So thank you for planning ahead and thinking of adding an additional classroom.
Yes, well, I guess if there were places that we, are seeing numbers that are a little bit higher, it might be at Hopkins right now. But we'll be vigilant.
Thank you very much. So that moves us into the school committee chair report, and in Mina's absence, I did approve the payroll warrants. I approved payroll warrant S19025 and S1925A, and the payroll warrants have been included in your packets. I also approved warrants 19-102 and 19-103. All of them are included in your packet. And I don't know, Mina, did you have anything else you wanted to add as the school committee chair report?
Sure. I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that I have been in touch with both you, Nancy, and Dr. Kavanaugh in the past couple of years, and I'm very thankful, especially to you, Nancy, for the small nuances of the day-to-day work as chair. So that's been very helpful to have that support from you. Also, I want to share that I've been in touch with Dorothy Presser at MASC as we are planning for the upcoming session on self-assessment by the entire school committee, and thinking of how we can have some training sessions throughout the year, a desire that the school committee had expressed that we should perhaps partner more with MSA and look for some training. So that's what I have.
Thank you. Does anyone have any liaison reports?
I have a policy, which we're talking about later on anyway, so I can kind of, when we get to those, I can be a little bit more specific. But, just to mention one thing that's not on our agenda is we did speak about the bullying prevention plan, and one of the things that we, I guess I don't want to say uncovered, is just basically the bullying prevention plan was reviewed by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education back in February, and they looked at all sorts of things, including special education, EL instruction, civil rights, or bullying policy. They suggested some minor changes that were integrated into the plan. The only thing is that plan is not currently on our website because of the website changeover. So once that changeover happens, the updated version is going to be on our website. So, but essentially, Desi looked at our stuff, said this is good, so we're good to go. The other quick liaison report I have is I went to the policy meeting the other day because on their agenda there was something about the busing situation at Legacy Farms. They didn't get to that on the agenda when I was at the meeting. However, just to let everyone know that it's something that they're talking about. I think they did a site walk over there, and so anyway, I don't know. I know the discussion has started here and then it's moved over to Legacy Farms. I don't know if the plan is to bring it back here, but I'm when I have more information, I'll make that available. That's it. That's all I got.
So I just had a quick one on the bridge. Dawn Ronan and I met with the people from Project Just Because, and were able to work out some things to help get some resources for all kinds of different things in addition to snacks and supplies for students that we're going to have the buildings identify what they're in need of. And then we're going to start moving into looking at some of the policies and procedures as we move into the fall. So, but probably a little quieter over the summer. That's it for me.
I have one thing on behalf of Amanda, and this is more around the website subcommittee. And I know that Mr. Ghosh is going to be presenting later in the meeting some of the work that has been done, which seems very exciting. So the request that has come from Amanda is related to the membership of the subcommittee. She expressed that it's been challenging, getting a quorum for the meetings, for folks to attend the meeting. So she was actually looking to see if the school committee would consider reducing the membership by 3 And the three specific numbers are coming because there are three members who have not been able to engage as much as they would have liked, two of whom are high school students who recently graduated. So you can understand where they're coming from, especially with some of the work that's coming up. She was looking to reduce the subcommittee size, I believe, from 18 to 15, especially in this upcoming crucial phase. So I was wondering if we could actually have a motion to approve reduction of the membership coming from Ms. Fagiano, who's the chair of the website subcommittee.
So, since it's not on the agenda, I wonder if we would be better off putting it off until next week? Because since we're meeting next week as well, so, rather than take a vote on it.
And have we alerted any of those members that we are removing them? Has there been any communication to them?
I think Mr. Ghosh is also here. I don't know if he's aware of it.
Yeah, I'm assuming the two high school students, I could easily email them just as a follow-up. But I'm assuming since they've graduated and are no longer available that they're probably aware. So the two high school students, I'm not sure who the third is. And then we also have a staff member who's done for the year and is moving away. So she is not going to be on that as well. So it's at least three that would be off the committee. So I'm assuming those three know that they're going to be off, but I'm happy to re-email them.
Is the committee meeting between now and next Friday?
Our hope is to meet on July 1st.
So if we wait to vote on this next
Next
Friday, to
28th.
just because it's not posted in our agenda, that's not going to cause a hardship for the committee?
I don't think so. That will then allow us to have the right numbers for the July 1st meeting to vote on the approval of the district site. So as long as I think it's done by then, that would be helpful.
That
would be my comfort level, but I would like to hear from Mina and also.
Yeah, Nancy, I guess, we have that posted as a special, we're looking to add that as a special meeting, right?
Yes.
And that was the only thing. And if you think that it's okay to just add one line item, which is more a business item, and if Dr. Kavanaugh is also okay with it, we could quickly add that, do a vote. It doesn't hurt, and some of these questions around notification can be addressed as well.
I do feel like if it's something that you're taking a vote on, it might make better sense to post it first. I mean, even if there's a logical reason why the high school kids and someone moving away would be going off of the committee, it just feels it might be better to alert them to the fact that they're not on the committee anymore before we just sort of move them off.
All right,
That would
yeah,
be my
let's do it then.
recommendation.
Yeah, we'll put it on the agenda for Friday. Friday, yeah.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, then that moves us into new business A, which is school counselor position for FY20, and that is for you, Mr. Bishop.
Hello,
Hi,
thank you for having me. Hope your summer's off to a good start.
you too.
Yes, I know, it is. So far, so good.
Day one.
It's a good feeling on day one.
It is, yeah, it is. So I'm here actually for two requests and looking for your support. The first is on a school counselor position, and the second is on moving the graduation date. Both conversations we've had before. I came back during the FY20 budget cycle, I believe it was in December, and talked about our need for a school counselor position. And if you just look at the numbers that Dr. Kavanaugh just presented, they continue to increase at the high school and in every building really in the district. And we talk a lot about, and you've heard me talk about social emotional learning and the well-being of our students, and that's a focus of ours and has been for a number of years. And obviously, the work that we do at the high school is always trying to prepare students for life after high school. And I think when you think of a school counselor position, there's no position that's more important to those two components. So right now we have 6 guidance counselors, or school counselors, and our ratios are around 218 to 1, and that actually is a little bit higher. We've had a few students actually just register to come in, so it's probably around 220 to 1. And then you're adding in that large incoming 9th grade. So if you remember the slide that was just put up there, the two biggest classes in the district are the 9th grade class and the 11th grade class next year. So our caseloads are probably going to be closer to 225, 230 to 1. Now, when I started as a guidance counselor here back in 2006, our numbers were about 180 to 1, and that was a manageable number, especially trying to build relationships, getting students ready for that post-secondary decision, whatever it might be, writing recommendations, working on their schedules, teaching guidance seminars. There's so many components to the role of a school counselor. So, and right now, that number is really, really high when you compare it to other local high schools' numbers of counselors to students ratio. So if we were able to add another position, the numbers would be closer to 200 to 1, maybe even a little bit lower, which I think is ideal for a school of our size and for the demand of our school and the expectations that the community has. So we were able to, or hoping to reallocate 0.4 of our existing FTE towards this position. So what we're really looking for is your support with the additional 0.6 and trying to find funding. Maybe it comes out of the Legacy Farms money, but that's what I'm here to kind of talk about. To try to be able to take, we can carve out 0.4 of what we've already asked for, and looking for an additional 0.6 to make a 1.0 position to add a 7th school counselor for next year. So I know you've heard me talk about this before, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about the position, about the structure of how it would work, anything that's on your mind.
So that was the only question I had for Dr. Kavanaugh was, this sounds like a Legacy Farms funds position to me. I mean, we have an extra, how 50 kids per guidance counselor added since you were a guidance counselor here. It needs to happen. So you could speak to your answer. I don't want to take away take from what you said.
No, we had looked at the numbers in Mandarin this year, and they are down a little bit from last year. So we have someone who works at 0.4, and that position would be reduced to 0.2. So that 0.2 of that person's salary would be part of it. Mr. Bishop had asked for personnel, teachers, FTEs, and there's a 0.2 right now that is sort of not earmarked anywhere. So the other 0.2 would go into this guidance counselor position. And when he'd asked for those positions, they were really sort of tentative. Because at the high school level you have a student-generated schedule, you have that opportunity to say, we need 8 sections of math, 7 sections of math. It all depends on how many students you have enrolling. So he's got that 0.2, and what we're really looking for is your approval to take 0.6 of an FTE from the Legacy Farms $200,000 that has been appropriated at town meeting.
I move to approve that.
Yeah, I'll second that. I think it makes perfect sense.
All right, and then we'll do a roll call vote. So Meg?
Yes.
Aye.
Jen?
Yes.
I am a yes. Mina?
Yes.
Awesome.
So it's unanimous. And
Great, thank you so much for the support. Really appreciate it. That's wonderful.
Absolutely.
And the second request is similar. I think we had this conversation maybe around this time last year. We set the graduation date. We typically have done it on the first Friday of June, but it is kind of late this year. I think it was June 7th, and then we moved it up to May 31st. And this upcoming school year, it's going to be on June 5th, and we're requesting to move it up to May 29th. And there's a few different reasons for it. Right now, if we were to keep the graduation date at June 5th, that would come right up to almost when the underclassmen start to take their exams. They take the exams the following Wednesday, so they'd only be about a 2-day buffer zone. And usually, we have at least a week to 2 weeks of kind of a time frame where there's just the underclassmen in the building. Seniors have to be in school 168 days, and the 168 day happens to be May 29th, so that works out. It also allows us to run our senior project the same way, which is usually a 4 to 4.5 week process. If we had it on June 5th or kept it there, it would be a 5.5 week process, which is a little bit longer than we've done in the past. And I think I included a few area schools. I did do some research, and many of the schools around us are also graduating in that weekend, whether it's the Friday the 29th or Sunday the 31st, but typically around that time frame. So it worked out great this past year. So we're hoping to move it up, and then as we get ready to do the calendar for the following year, I'll make sure that I come and talk about this earlier, so we don't have to do it in the summertime.
It's a year from now. If you have to change it, you got to change it, right? Yeah,
It's not a big deal.
And the other thing I think I do want to mention, is that there are a lot of senior week activities that go along with graduation. So we have done our work on the back end. We've talked to Gillette Stadium about the dinner dance with the parents. That can be moved a week earlier. Our boat cruise can be moved a week earlier. And then there's a Red Sox game also a week earlier. So it's all going to line up the way that it did this past year. So
Nice.
Perfect.
So I move to approve the date change.
All right. I second that.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Meg?
Aye.
Jen?
Yes.
I am a yes. Mina?
Yes.
Okay, so it's unanimous. Thank you very
Alright.
much. much.
so much.
And happy summer.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Mr.
thank
Bishop.
you.
summer.
Thank you. You too. Thank you so much
Put
for the
on your
support as
shorts.
always. Yeah.
Right? Next time.
I
no
put away all the
time. Yeah,
jackets.
yeah.
Take it out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
You too.
So that moves us into the final overnight approval of the field hockey trip, and that's you, Dr. Kavanaugh.
Sure. It may have just been 2 weeks ago that we had this on our agenda. So you know that it has to be approved, prior to them going, and this would be the request for a final approval. And again, it's the girls varsity field hockey team, and they are going to Yarmouth High School. They have a tournament there. It's just an overnight. They leave on Friday, September 6th, and come back on Saturday, September 7th. So that's what we're looking for.
Is there a motion to approve that?
I move to approve it.
I'll second it.
Okay, I'll do a roll call. Meg?
Aye.
Jen?
Yes.
I am a yes. Mina?
Aye.
Okay, so that is unanimous and also passes. That moves us into the marathon gift account. Also you, Dr. Kavanaugh.
All right, so as you know, all of these gifts need to be approved by the school committee. So this one is for the Marathon Elementary School. The amount of $1,723.14 was given to them as a gift from the HPTA, and we are just looking for your approval.
I move to approve.
I second. Are you to accept something like this,
Right.
right? Yeah.
All right, a roll call. Meg?
Aye.
Jen?
Yes.
I am a yes. Mina?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous and also passes. That moves us into another marathon school gift account.
All right, so this one is from the trustees of the school fund, and it's in the amount of $3,500 for Marathon. And what they are going to be doing with that is they are going to be getting sensory tables for kindergarten, I believe, and the hope there is that it will promote development of fine motor, cognitive, and language skills while nurturing social and emotional development. So I think that this is sort of a lovely gift.
Fantastic. I move to accept this gift.
I second.
Roll call. Meg?
Aye.
Jen?
Yes.
I am a yes. Mina?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous and also passes. That moves us into the 2019 Winslow Coin, my eyes are failing me, the Excellence in Education Award. And that's you, Dr. Kavanaugh.
Yes, so I think I had mentioned in a superintendent's report some time ago that Principal Vanessa Bolello at the Hopkins School had won an award, $2,000 of which would go to the school and $1,750 would be for her personally, and she is taking her money and donating it also to the school. So what we are looking for is a motion for you to approve those two different dollar amounts, $2,000 that would go directly and $1,750 that would go from Vanessa to the school to be put in the Hopkins gift account.
Congratulations to Vanessa Bilello. What a wonderful honor. And I move to accept this.
Absolutely. I will second
Um,
that. Oh,
And
sorry.
if I may just add a few things. It was lovely to see the note, and from the very first time I have seen Mrs. Bilalo, her enthusiasm and her passion is palpable for the students at Hopkins, and she's always been a great advocate for the school. And clearly, she's been working to lay out programs, and it was interesting to read a little bit about CARES, for which she was recognized. And I would hope that we can, in an upcoming report, hear a little bit more and what difference it has made to students. So congratulations to Mrs. Bilello, and yes, thanks to her for giving this back to the school.
It's amazing.
Agreed. So we'll do a roll call then. We'll start with
Aye.
you, Meg?
Yes.
Jen? Yes. I am a yes. Mina?
Yes.
So it is unanimous and it so passes, and that brings us into item G, which is the lease of Apple computer equipment for the one-to-one laptop program, and that is Mr. Ghosh.
Thank you. Each year of the one-to-one laptop program, it's necessary to initiate a new 3-year lease for MacBook Airs for the incoming 9th graders. To procure the equipment, we've developed the detailed specifications and advertised the bid as required by Massachusetts procurement laws. Based on family applications, vendors were informed that we would need approximately 205 units, with the final numbers to be determined at a later date. The hardware specifications are listed in the memo, but it's for a MacBook Air 13-inch screen with an 8th generation Intel Core i5, 256 gigabyte storage, and the most up-to-date specs that the Mac is offering. As in years past, when the deadline for the bid submission arrived, we received only one bid at this point. It was from Apple Computer. The total lease payments for this bid would be $278,854. The funding will come from the one-to-one laptop account, which is a revolving account, which is funded by students and families. The cost for the students are approximately $1,610. As with previous years, lease participants can purchase the laptops at the end of agreement for $1 plus tax. I recommend the school committee approve the bid received from Apple Computers for MacBooks as detailed above. We're happy to entertain questions if you have about the lease or the payments.
Can I ask just one question? How much does a MacBook Air 13 go for?
So this is education funding. So this pricing here, and I'll just give an overview because there's some questions, and I believe Amanda had some questions about this. And I talked to the Apple rep today. So legally, they can't publish or post a bid that's below state contract pricing because they would be in violation. I'm not a contract lawyer, so I can't speak on that, but they can't publicly put on paper a price that's lower than what they're allowed to do based on contract price. So the numbers you see here are roughly the education pricing, which is roughly $50 off of normal retail pricing. That being said, they will be working with us when they do the final lease paperwork and payment amount to get us a deeper discount as they usually do, which usually ends up being around $100 off or more per device. So that's what we usually end up with. At that point, we typically revise the lease payments, notify parents of the updated amounts, and make changes that need be. But at a minimum, parents have agreed to pay this amount and have signed paperwork for this amount. And this is the amount they've seen so far.
And I think, as Amanda asked last year, there's some kind of support for families who can't put down $1,600 over the course of 3 years.
Correct. So there's 3 ways to participate in the program, and this is just one of them. So one is leasing to own through this program. Another is just to bring your own device that you have from home, which could be a laptop, it even could be a Chromebook or other similar device. It doesn't have to be a Mac or Apple-based product. Or the third way is to utilize a machine, a MacBook from the school. So the school maintains a loaner pool of similar devices with access to similar software and equipment that they have on a daily basis. They take it home with them. It's theirs for the year. Okay. And even if if they're involved in special programming or summer school and they need that device, they can have that device throughout the summer. That's the third option.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions, comments?
So I move to approve the lease of the Apple computer equipment.
I'll second.
Okay, a roll call. Meg?
Aye.
Jen?
Yes.
I am yes. And Nina?
Yes.
So that is unanimous and carries, and that moves us into item H, which is the lease of Apple equipment.
The next lease is basically FY20's budget includes funding to initiate a new 3-year lease. It's a fair market lease for various Apple computer products. It's some computers and some accessories and parts as needed for the district. To procure this equipment, we developed detailed specifications and advertised the bid as required by Massachusetts procurement laws. When the deadline for the bid submission arrived, we received one bid as follows: Apple Inc. Total lease payments was $2,026 and $578. I recommend the school committee approve the bid received from Apple Inc. for the computer's equipment as detailed in the bid specifications. All funding will come from the school department's technology budget.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Ashok, I was just wondering, looking at the memo, is there any reason why some of the detail of the equipment, the hardware that's being sought, which was listed out for this one-to-one program, similar to that, was not listed in this particular memo?
There was no particular reason to do that. I can speak with Susan and kind of ask if there was a specific reason for that. I'm happy to kind of highlight some of the equipment. The largest portion of this lease is for the normal replacement cycle for middle school staff. So this lease will fund roughly 105 laptop computers for middle school teachers. This is on the normal 4-year schedule that we have to replace teacher equipment. So that's a large portion, or roughly 150,000 of this lease is going towards that purchase. Roughly 50,000 a year over 3 years. The additional equipment would be some equipment for my technical staff, for example, one iMac computer, which is used for diagnostics in the repair centers, smaller cables and spare charging cables, a few Apple TVs, and then the other bigger portion of this lease would be for replacement iPads for schools across the district. And this covers a variety of purposes. Some is just replacing old iPads that no longer can be upgraded. Some of it is for growth. And I think Amanda asked some questions. I think out of all the iPads we're getting, about 25% of those were designated for the growth at Marathon School in particular. So because of the increase in numbers there, roughly 20 new iPads would be going to Marathon for growth. The other are to replace ones that we can't update any longer, but need to for specific reasons, whether it's meeting the needs of an individual student, whether it's replacing something in a classroom where it no longer works. So by putting those in the bid, it's actually saving the district money, getting better pricing versus just buying it straight out of maintenance or other accounts, and that's why we've bundled that into this bid.
That's great.
Thank you for providing that detail. Sure.
You're welcome.
I believe there was one other question that Amanda had brought up related to the usage of, Apple products by the faculty where students are using Chromebooks. Could you just, for everyone's sake, speak a little bit to that, the rationale behind that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the district has supported Apple computers and has been a strategic initiative really since 2009. And we have spent a large number of hours and funds to train and prepare staff to use those tools. And so the big purpose of doing that is that teachers still rely on a variety of software tools. Granted, many of those are web-based, right? So we use Google Suite for a lot of basic office functionalities. We use a lot of web-based tools. Things are definitely still hosted in the cloud. And so yes, some of it is web-based, but some of it is also dependent on local software tools that teachers still rely on, whether it's simply creating and editing photos for a classroom presentation, or whether it's a higher level math class still using Microsoft Excel to do the statistics they need. There's a number of reasons why teachers, from a software standpoint, still need them. And then from a strategic standpoint, we're tooled to work with Apple products. And to change that strategy would require a big shift in how we do business. We'd have to retrain staff. All of our mobile management systems or platforms that push out software to all these devices would all have to be redone or replaced. And so I think it's a fair question to evaluate whether Apple is the best or right product for the district, but at the same time, if we did that, there would be an increased cost that may not offset the extra cost of buying Apple to begin with. So I'm happy to entertain future discussions about a strategy in the fall if that's what the school committee requires. But at this point, I think my strategy and the district strategy has been to support Apple computers for some of those reasons. And I don't know if that helps answer your question, Mina, but I'm happy to elaborate.
It does, and I think it's in alignment with what Dr. Kavanaugh had also shared
Okay.
with us. The other aspect that we had discussed in the past year is some of this technology, especially in the elementary grades, and the outcome, the educational experience for students, where we've all, as parents, are so wary of technology usage, but at the same time, it's so necessary. So what is it, with the investment that we are making in technology and all of this hardware, especially in the elementary grades, what is the outcome, what is the benefit? I think we have talked about it a little bit last year, and you had expressed a willingness to provide some kind of statistics and report around it. Perhaps that's something to look at along with what you're suggesting for a strategy in the fall.
Yeah, I'm happy to come back in the fall and report out on, more specifically, even some program evaluations. At this point, as mentioned before, we haven't done a full program evaluation since the beginning of the one-to-one program launch, roughly 6, 7 years ago at the high school. So I'm happy to do that if that's the school committee's desire. I would just ask that you give us some time to get through some of the other strategic initiatives that we have, like launching the website and some other things that we're working on before we do that. It's not a matter of not wanting to do that. We just, as a department, haven't really had the time to focus on, action research or looking at these programs and doing program evaluations recently. So we're happy to do that. We find value in doing that. We obviously don't want to waste community money on things that are not impacting students. So I'm definitely willing to do that in the fall if that's what you would like to see.
Thank you, Ashok. Your effort is, very, very valued, and especially with the work on the website. So absolutely happy to wait, at least on my end. Don't want to speak for everyone.
Okay.
Yes, happy to wait.
That's great. Any other questions? Are we ready to entertain a motion?
I would like to move to approve the bid from Apple.
I'll second it.
Okay, roll call. Meg?
Aye.
Jen?
Yes.
I am a yes. Mina?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous, and so passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that moves us into item I, which is a request to expend year-end balances, and that is Dr. Kavanaugh.
Yes, typically this would be Mrs. Rothermick, but she is on vacation this week. So because we are at the end of the school year and then the end of the fiscal year, what needs to happen is we have to sort of make all of our accounts right. So I am requesting that you authorize Mrs. Rothermick to make expense transfers between funds as necessary so that she can close out the year-end balances for FY19. And I'll just sort of give you an example of how that works. So right now, the cafeteria, for example, it's a revolving account and it's operating in the red. So we're going to need to move some money into that account just to make that account whole before we close things out. We have a couple of other expenditures that we need to make before the end of the school year. For example, we have looked at the middle school fitness center. And in the fitness center, there may be 4 bicycles, stationary bicycles. And if we take parts from 2 of them, we will have 1 whole bicycle in there. So the equipment has become quite decrepit. The same thing is true for treadmills. There are 4 treadmills in there right now. 1 is working. So the room needs sort of an overhaul. And this is also a place where, in that fitness center, where many of our students with special needs go for their physical education classroom. So I feel like leaving it the way that it is right now is kind of unconscionable for me. Mm-hmm. So we will need to take some money and put it there, which will mean that we'll be shifting money from one account to another. And then the third place where we found we need a little bit of assistance right now is in high school textbooks. When Mr. Bishop was here and talking about the increase in enrollment, what we've discovered is that for next year, given class sizes, we will need to purchase some textbooks to accommodate all of the kids. And that's true in social studies, math, and science. And in some cases, the textbooks that we have currently can't be replaced because we can't buy extras because they are out of date. So we are going to need to purchase a whole new set of textbooks for those kids. So that dollar amount could be as high as $50,000 at the end of this year. But because the money is there in accounts, it makes sense to purchase them now rather than to tax the FY20 budget. So that's what we're looking at for end of year expenditures and transfers.
Dr. Kavanaugh, did you share what the total amount is or a ballpark?
So I think what we were looking at for the fitness equipment is probably around 30,000 and the textbooks are around 50,000. And then, obviously we have to make food service whole and there's circuit breaker money there as well. So when you meet in July on the 18th, Mrs. Rothermick will obviously give you the entire end of year expenditure report so that you can see how all of that money is played out.
So about 80,000?
For those 2 items, yes.
Okay.
And really at this point, that's, just kind of a guess because we don't have all of the POs ironed out, but they will be very shortly because June 30th is just around the corner.
So we have some positive variances in some other places that we can move things from.
That's correct,
Okay.
yes. Yeah.
All right.
All right, I move to approve the expense transfers.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Aye.
Nick, Jen,
Yes.
I am a yes, and Mina?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's great.
Yes, it's really good.
That moves us into item J, which is policy BEHD, public participation at school committee meetings. This is a first reading, and I know that it did go out by listserv. But that's you, Dr. Kavanaugh.
Yes. So what you are seeing in front of you in your packet, the public participation at school committee meeting policy, you'll notice that it is not redlined. We currently have a policy, but this is pretty much an entirely revised policy. The Natick Public Schools have gone through, I think, 2 years of litigation around this policy. And what they have found, and we attended a session with lawyers from the ACLU, is that there are very infrequent times when you are able to ask a person to stop speaking at a public meeting. And so much of what they've learned and much of the legal outcomes are in this policy. Pretty much this is Natick's policy. When we had our last policy subcommittee meeting, Jen and I went through it and we made some very subtle changes to it. In the Natick meeting, they asked people to sign up. We left the sign up language in here in number 1. We very infrequently have people come to public comment. They left the sign up language in there because they so frequently do that they can only really allot 15 minutes to public speak, or they wouldn't be able to conduct the business of the school committee. So that's there, and we can think about whether or not we want to leave it there. It doesn't feel to me like it's hurting anything, right, to have it. In number 2, we had the language that says that people are advised against specifically naming students or district employees, and it does say advised against because legally you cannot stop someone from naming a school employee or a student. In the third one, the 3 minutes to present your material, we just have to be very cautious that regardless of the topic, 3 minutes is 3 minutes. Number 4 can be very tricky. The things that fall within the scope of the school committee's authority, even though it might feel like things do not, in a lot of ways, a lot does touch upon the work that you do. So for example, if, a group of parents came and said that they wanted, a basket weaving course, you may say that curriculum isn't, but the funding of that would be. So that's how, in some ways, you can make a case that things are related to the work that you do. And then just number 8, which is the disclaimer. Because of constitutional free speech principles, the school committee does not have the authority to prevent all speech that may be upsetting and or offensive at public comment, and that is pretty broad. So Natick will tell you that they have tolerated quite a bit of speech that they were not able to shut down. Number 7 speaks to the things that will allow you to shut things down, and that would be if there was something that was a true threat. So even if someone makes a threat, you have to believe in its credibility for you to stop that speech. The stuff at the bottom would not be here, but Natick did give us some suggested stopping language in the event that we felt that someone who was here for public comment was out of order. You would simply, Madam Chair, point of order and ask the question whether it did or did not pertain to school committee business, or whether it was a true threat or something that was prurient in nature. So that's what we have there right now. We are happy to take any kind of feedback from the committee. This is really a first read.
Can I ask a question about number 3? In the past, is that what we've allowed? I'm sorry, I don't remember.
It
3
is.
minutes? Okay. Thank you.
Was there any feedback or questions or comments from the public, either Mina that you received or that you received, Dr. Kavanaugh?
We did not.
No, I did not either. I have a couple of questions. So in our case, we have public comment both at the beginning and at the end of the meeting. I felt that needs to be reflected in this.
Okay.
The other question I had was that the formatting of this looked a little different than how we have our policies set up. Is there any
The
reason
box
for
is
that?
different. There's not the typical box at the bottom, is that what you mean?
Yes, and the references and the timelines and whatnot, and it talks about adoption with the signature and date.
Yes, so if and when this is approved, it will, mirror the other policies that we have. And especially now as we're working toward the new website, we've done a lot of work in kind of cleaning them up to ensure that they are all in the same font, the same size font, that the formatting is the same, because what we were finding is that they were all over the place, so
Yeah,
that's
if I-
been a lot of work.
If I could encourage the moving away from the boxes at all as a future suggestion. It's fine for, I guess, a document, but it doesn't translate well to the website. It's a table,
yeah.
table's not easily readable on a web version, so we've kind of migrated away from those tables on the website. So, just food for thought, but.
Yeah, that's good to know.
That's good feedback. It was more about being able to capture that kind of information. The formatting could be what works best in the new setup that we have for the website. But I think it talks about the date and the first reading, etc., and the adoption. So those were typically the comments, but I'm very glad to see this. And this is certainly a conversation in Massachusetts. So thank you for bringing this up.
Yes, this is something that's happening statewide. We won't be the only school committee looking at this.
So the one thing that jumps out to me, and I don't know how I feel about it honestly, is the signing up for public comment. And the reason it jumps out at me is because our meetings at times can be lengthy, and people that come in that are going to speak, if we have a comment period at the end, if they have to be there at the beginning to sign up, that's inhibiting a little bit people's ability to participate. So I would want to know if we're going to put that in the policy, if there's a way to reduce that barrier, how we're going to go about the sign up. If it's not at the very beginning, would be my preference. I don't know. I don't have a better idea off the top of my head. That just jumped out at me.
Maybe we could put a sign-up sheet on a table
Yeah.
and direct them to sign it if they come in at 9:14.
I think the only caution is that you want to keep public comment at a minimum so that you can conduct your business. So, you could certainly set up time parameters that are your own, or sign up methods that are your own for sure.
Has there ever been, since you've been here the longest, an instance where public comment became really lengthy in
So,
your?
not since I've been on the school committee,
Okay.
but because I used to follow the school committee for the paper.
Uh-huh.
There was back in, I don't remember what year it was, there was a proposal to eliminate the drama class. And there was a tremendous amount of feedback from the public. It wasn't unruly or anything.
There were a lot of people that
There were a
came.
lot of people that did come.
Because I think for something like that, later on down at number 5 says large groups addressing the same topic are encouraged. For sure everyone
Yes.
could speak, but they are encouraged to consolidate their remarks. So, I wouldn't be opposed to the idea of getting rid of the sign up. And if there were ever such a time that it got a little unruly, we could
Right.
consider adding it back into the policy. But I feel like within the sort of foreseeable past, it's been fairly, every once in a while there'll be an issue. There are quite a few folks that show up to speak about, but I don't feel like it took an enormous chunk of time.
Even when we discussed the transportation
Yeah,
us
that's what I was
that
thinking
was
of.
not super lengthy.
It may have been a little more than 15 minutes, but I don't feel like it got to the point where it really became prohibitive to us finishing out that particular meeting. So if folks are up for it, I wouldn't mind at least eliminating the sign up piece and then revisiting it if we needed to.
So I just want to, Jen, you bring up a good point of looking at some examples that we have had in our district, right? So I think in the time that you and I have served, I think one of the biggest ones we saw was around the transportation,
Yep.
right?
Yep, definitely.
And I think the folks in the community were extremely civil in terms of the timing that they utilized and how they came up to speak. And even their dissatisfaction, they expressed it in a very respectful manner. So that's our district, how we have functioned so far.
Right.
But I think what this is trying to do is to look at some other districts which, had these incidents which got a little out of control, if you will, right? And it's trying to preempt that. And I think that's the point from where this is coming.
I guess I don't see how having a sign up prevents that, though. That's the connection that I'm missing, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I mean, I think it is set up, you know, to sort of preempt any issues. Yeah, I mean, I think if folks want to speak, we can't really stop them. So,
Well, I think the reason that they have the sign up in Natick is that they'll get 20 people who all want to come and make some kind of public comment, and if there's a 15-minute time period that's limited, you know, they get there early and put their name down,
They
so
do.
they're assured a spot.
So I'm, and maybe this I didn't pick up on. So there's 3 minutes per person, but they cap it so that they can't go over the 15 minutes.
Right,
Is
and
that-
in some cases, if you don't use your whole 15 minutes, or people will agree to speak, your whole 3 minutes, or people will agree to go to 2 minutes instead, you know, they kind of work it that way.
and there was language in Natick's example
Yes.
that spoke to that. So it said something like, you know, if 10 people sign up, each person is allotted a minute and 30 seconds. If 8 people sign up, each person is allotted 2 minutes. And
Get
we
to the
actually
10 seconds.
decided to take that
That's
language out
crazy.
because it was so specific, so
It's very
prescriptive.
discouraging.
Right, we want we're in a lucky position right now where we actually want people to come and participate. We don't want to dissuade folks from coming. So I mean, but you're right. It's trying to eliminate the possibility of a bad situation from taking place. So I can see that too. But either way, I mean, I don't mind the sign up being in there, but I would welcome the idea of getting rid of it too.
Right,
I'm
and,
in the
and
same
Jen,
place.
you know, you make that excellent point again. We are in that place where we want public participation. We want to hear from parents.
Yeah.
And I think even in this other case, that will still happen. And I think many times it's think about, I'm thinking town meeting, right? When you hear the same message over and over again, right, is that helpful? So we do want to take the message that we are hearing from the group or group of people in that 15 minutes, and that may be sufficient for us to reflect and work on it, and that it doesn't disrupt the business for which we have come to meet. I think that's how I read it, but absolutely, open to how the committee, everyone else feels, and what Dr. Kavanaugh may have also researched.
MASC hasn't updated their version yet too, so we don't
They
have
have
we don't have a framework. We have Natix. That's our framework. So I mean, the sign up doesn't really. I'm kind of ambivalent about it. So if someone feels strongly, go for it. But
I
if,
don't feel strongly about it, but
Yeah.
I mean, we could just put a piece of paper out there
Yeah.
and have people sign up if we remember to.
Right.
Lena.
add that to the list of things to
Yeah.
do. Right.
I don't feel strongly about it, but I would prefer not to have it. But I
Okay.
don't feel like that's not, I don't think it is substantially going to change the public comment we have or don't have. I think
Right.
Yeah, I don't think it
we
is
get
either.
what we get. So that would just be my
Okay.
2 cents.
So for second reading, do you like leaving in the 15-minute
Yes.
public comment period?
Yes. The sign up piece is the part I'm on the fence about. The 15 minutes I feel like is if there's an issue in the agenda that folks would like to speak to, 15 minutes is a good amount of time to have that opportunity, I feel like. And if they want to stay to the end and have another 15 minutes, they could too. So really,
That's
there's
true,
sort of a
too.
half an
There's-
hour
there's-
potential.
There's a half an hour potential.
Right.
Right. Yeah, Nancy, I think you bring up that good point, and hopefully some folks are watching, and maybe we'll get some more feedback between now and
Right.
the second reading.
I always hope for feedback.
So maybe in the second reading, could it be,
Of course, yes.
you know, we kind of bracket it as still up to some thought when we come back for our next meeting, and Amanda will be here too, and then we can kind of
Yes.
figure out whatever, get a little more consensus about it. I mean, like I said, I don't really.
Yeah.
And I
I
wonder,
could probably be swayed.
Yeah,
one or the
either
other.
way. It's-
yeah, I think talking about it again would be good, because what if someone reads this and they're worried that they haven't signed up in time because there are no parameters set for what point by which do you need to
Right.
sign up?
Right.
Right.
So you don't want to discourage people from coming if they think, I missed the deadline.
Right, right.
So
Right. I
we
think
will
Mr.
return
Goshen-
to it.
I'm just gonna have a minor suggestion, it may not be helpful, but I think if you do have a time limit of 15 minutes, is it possible to leave some authority up to the chair to even extend that time in special situations when we do have people that are showing up? There are definitely moments in history where they come where you want a lot of that feedback. So I would just
Right.
don't trap yourself
Right.
into the 15 minutes, because you may want to extend that time to maybe 30
I
to
like
hear all
that.
the representatives in that room. So that might be, leave yourself some wiggle room with an extension there.
I like that,
Right.
and that also allows
Yeah.
for, if we're, go back to the example Mina said, if we're hearing the same comments over and over, it wouldn't make sense to extend it, but there might be a time when we're hearing on multiple issues at the same meeting, and it might make sense for the chair to have that authority.
Yeah.
That's right.
So as we're doing,
Ashok, your feedback is so appreciated.
Thank you.
Good idea.
I've seen a few meetings where it's where it's gone a little longer.
so
All
as
right.
we're revising this, we'll revise number 6 as well.
What was 6 again?
Because if you don't have allotted time, we'll just leave it to say speakers who require reasonable accommodations on the basis, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
So we'll
Yes.
start right there. All right, so we will bring this back for a second reading, and we'll have the policy subcommittee take a look at that again.
All right.
That's great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So that moves us down into policy IJOA, field trips for a first reading. Dr. Kavanaugh.
All right, and Jen, you can feel free to jump right in on this one, because I think you were perhaps more in tune to this one, but this one has come back because we were interested in looking at just emergency communication protocols, really. I mean, that was the big driver for this one.
Right. Because the communication plan, I think, was the big piece that was added in this one. That's the real major addition to the third paragraph from the bottom. I think it makes good sense. If planes are delayed, or if we're in a place where there's no cell phone service, there needs to be someone who picks up the actual payphone in the, wherever you are, and makes a call to someone who can get the word out. So just to make sure that parents are informed about where their kids are if there's a delay. So that's the big addition, is that third paragraph from the bottom. We also considered some language about scheduling field trips, and that was one of the things that Amanda was thinking as we were updating this. But just in the interest of full disclosure here, the conversation with Dr. Kavanaugh, you can jump in now if you want to, but with faculty and administration, basically they do consider what's going on in the school, and they make their decisions for field trips with those, with tests and other clubs and organizations. They have that on their radar. But for example, we can't rule out field trips during MCAS because only the 10th grade takes MCAS. And so it's more about making sure that the faculty are available to the students who need to be available, and not necessarily about whether there's a test specifically. The other thing Amanda mentioned were AP exams, but same thing, AP exams affect a specific group of students that may or may not be involved in a certain organization that's taking a field trip, and in the the event that it is, the student is aware of it ahead of time, and they know they have to figure out how they're going to handle the situation. So we pretty much kept the adjustments to the emergency communication plan. And I think that's pretty much it. Is there anything else? Did I leave anything out? The categories we added, but that was it.
Yeah, I think that the categories existed without being called categories.
Right.
It just made better sense, I think, to.
Cleaner.
Looks good to me. But are there other comments?
I don't know. Did you receive anything?
I had something, but if someone else has something to say, should I go?
Go ahead.
Nancy?
Yep.
So I was just wondering if, as a result of some of these additional measures that have been added, some of the forms that we have would capture more detail.
We spoke about that in the meeting, about how we needed to include that emergency communication piece as part of the field trip process, so that we that's not part of our policy. So it would be something that we wouldn't necessarily have to see and vote on, but we want to make sure that that communication piece is, when they bring a field trip to us, that would be part of that packet of information that's presented to us. So whether it's a separate form or it's integrated into the existing forms that folks fill out when they present, I mean, we don't want to add another form that somebody else has to fill out, but if we could tack it onto an existing form just to make sure that that information is there.
Yeah, no, so, Jen, as I was reading that, so I'm glad, you've all looked at it and considered that. So it sounds like some of that responsibility is, falling on us when I look at that language. That's where I always get a little concerned that we are taking this on or requesting for more of this. So we just need to make sure that on the procedure side, that is taken care of. And as long as there is some kind of a time commitment, or as we get to approve this, that will get updated, whatever is the timeline.
Right,
That
right.
works.
Yeah, and as we've looked at some of those field trip forms, there's not a lot of consistency either in the layout of those, so they might need a little cleaning up as well.
Yeah.
Before we migrate.
It's great.
That's good, thank
So
you.
should we, of course, absolutely. Should we, I mean, if you feel comfortable with it, great, but should we bring it back just for a second reading when Amanda's here too?
I think
I mean,
so.
she's part of the
I think-
policy
yeah, I think
working
so.
group and,
Yep.
yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Bring it back for a second.
And if you have any input, you can let us know, but just so
No, you
she has
guys
a
are
chance to
Doing good stuff
speak
there.
her piece. Okay, good.
Good.
All right.
And I've shared this with Mr. Bishop as well, so, I mean, I think the high school is probably the school that it most impacts, but
Yeah.
So that moves us into item L, which is the calendar subcommittee, Dr. Kaplan.
yes, so.
Nancy,
Yes.
if may I request, we are talking about all the subcommittees a little bit. Would it be okay to switch the discussion? Could we talk about the next item first and then come to this?
Sure.
Would that be okay, Dr.
Sure.
Kavanaugh?
Sure, that's fine.
Right, so that moves us then into item M, which is school committee liaisons and roles.
So I guess, every year we look at our subcommittee assignments and liaison roles. And earlier in the year and even in late fall, we had looked for verbiage of what each of these subcommittees mean and do to be updated on the school website. And so what you see in front of you is really a description which came from many of the members themselves who have been part of it. And this is an attempt to kind of expand and look to capture the effort involved in each of these subcommittees and liaison roles. And if some of them are termed, how are they aligned to the function that we have? What is the effort that it takes, so that there is a better understanding as we are looking to sign up to various roles and whatnot. So I guess to me, one of the things that struck out as I was jotting down some of the effort, these are estimates, obviously. So if you look at, say, the community communications, which is line item number 13, my estimate of it is it takes about 3 to 6 hours per month on that particular subcommittee, where, whether it is emails or attending the meetings or some follow-up or looking at meeting minutes or what have you, or bringing up an agenda item. So it's all inclusive of that. So if you look to see various other aspects, I've made an attempt to the ones which I was familiar with to add those items. So if you look at item number 21, which is the tech item, Walpole is nearly an hour away. So you have that, you have to be prepared for what the meeting is all about. Make sure you have some questions back and forth because it's a voting member role. And many times they have some fabulous programming that you're attending. So this is more an average, if you will, of about 4 to 6 hours per month working on the tech initiative. So I thought it is a good idea to spell this out a little bit so we can look at what is the effort that each member is putting into all of this besides the bi-weekly meetings that we have to prepare for research, executive sessions, etc. So what I was hoping is we look at this list is nearly 30. There are two items which are added a little later on. One was something that came from Jen Devlin, which is the Planning Board Growth Study Committee, and also the new request around the calendar subcommittee. So my hope is to look for all of us to really take a look at all of these items and see which of these are absolutely needed and which of these we could possibly sunset. And if there are some which we can consolidate in terms of the subcommittees so that we are more reasonable in terms of asking the time of our members, and look to see how is it that ultimately aligned with the school committee functions and goals and supportive of our district strategic plan, right? So if we look at, for instance, item number 16, which is the Metro West Innovative Education Roundtable Consortium, it was an initiative that was started, and it would be great to continue to have that. But if it's not there, should we be looking to sunset it, or what should be the approach there? So I would like us to look at each of these items and scrutinize whether we need it. Is it ready to be sunset over a period in time? So my request today, and with Amanda also not present, for all of us to look at each of these items, especially the ones which we're very close to add some detail around what is the effort that it takes to be part of it per month, so that whoever is signing up has some idea. Look to see if there is some description that could be added. And I think as we plan in the upcoming months, look to see how is it aligned to our goals and the school committee function. That was my hope in terms of looking at all of these items. To me, nearly 30 roles, and I know some of them are heavier, some of them aren't. But does it make sense to have so many, and are we able to do justice to all of this? Are we diluting some of our efforts? So that's where I was coming at it from, and expanding and kind of taking a more holistic look at it.
And Mina, is it okay to send around the link to Melrose Public Schools, which I was looking at? They have 3,900 students in their district and 7 school committee members, and they have 3 subcommittees. And I just thought, I don't feel wed to the idea, but I think it's interesting for us to look at another way of collecting and organizing these. They have a subcommittee on educational programs, one on finance and facilities, and one on policy and planning. And so say 2 school committee members will take each subcommittee, and then they'll have separate meetings and presentations. And so it's just a thought. That's all. Am I allowed to email that, or will I be arrested? Open meeting law.
I think you can email that, Meg. Nancy, I didn't mean to speak out of turn.
No, you're fine. I was thinking back to what you were saying about adding detail to this, which is that it might be helpful to clarify in each of these that some of these are not subcommittees but liaison roles in which ongoing participation is not a requirement, that it's kind of being in touch and knowing what's going on to be able to represent the school committee's particular needs and bring back, for example, with the planning board, their particular needs.
Right.
Right. Yeah, and I think it always depends on the individual members too. Sometimes what they want to make of it, and sometimes it's also the demand of the hour. For instance, right now with the growth that we have going on, I'm personally of the opinion that closer tie with the planning board is helpful.
Right. So if we look at just voting members,
versus a different time period where it may not be the hot topic.
So, and then just jumping specifically into the bridge, I'm going to send you, if it's okay, some verbiage that reflects also the policy and procedure piece that the bridge is looking at. just to,
That's great. And, this is on the, I didn't make it, I think I made it shareable but not editable, but I will open it up for folks to enter in their particular description. So you can just add it right into the spreadsheet, Nancy, or you can email it to me and I'll add it.
if you make it editable, I am happy to do it so you're not stuck editing a whole document, but I just wanted to reflect that because that's very specifically a school committee function.
Sure.
Right, and as Meg's sending this email, the other thing that I was looking at is, I wonder if Melrose is only posting the committees for which they have a voting member, as opposed to like, I wonder if they assign, like, does someone go sort of keep their eye on the selectmen meetings and, because it looks like we only have 4 voting member subcommittees, but we have whatever 30 liaisons. Yeah, so that's another big question, I guess. Yeah.
And
I think some of
I,
these
one of my, sorry, go ahead, Dr. Kavanaugh, you were about to say something.
Oh, I was just gonna say, some of these naturally sunset. So
Right.
like the
Right.
calendar committee, the website committee, those will go away over time, but there are others that will remain in existence
Right.
forever. Like you'll always want a liaison to the planning board.
Right.
Right, and even look at, I mean,
Yes.
center school reuse is done.
Yes.
That committee is done, so. In another year, elementary school building committee will be
Right.
done, so.
In the Metro West Roundtable Consortium is we only actually met, I think, once or twice in the fall. It's not clear, there were some things that the school committee member from another district had organized it, and there are a couple of other school committee members. It just has not really gelled forward because there are things going on in their particular lives, so I'm not sure if that's intended to continue on or not.
Right.
And I can look into that when we bring this back to discuss when Amanda's here.
Right, and the other point too, Mina, that I think you make a good point, some of these are more labor intensive, some, are just pretty much in name only. But I think some of them, like, for example, the budget advisory group probably isn't really hit very hard right now, but by November, the workload increases significantly and stays pretty high until May, and then so it's the time frame is, you might have 6 months of pretty light work and then 6 months where you're putting in a ton of time. Yeah.
Right. And Jen, I also remember as we got on the school committee together, we realized how much work it is, right? So I think this is a good opportunity to kind of relook at what is truly needed and, how do we encourage folks, this is serious work commitment.
Right.
Right.
That first
so people
year.
really need to be aware of it ahead of time. And I also think that we need to be conscientious that serving on the school committee should be a possibility for a full-time working person. And is it? So that's something for us to think about. And I think the other aspect is, there are functions, and I think it has evolved over a period in time, and each one of us have taken different aspects. I will speak for myself that when we created the community communications group, the goal was to create that link between the community and the schools, right? To have those conversations and create that open dialogue. But I think at this point, each and every of those roles, I think, is up for conversation for us to self-reflect on areas which are under our purview and come back and say what makes sense, what can we consolidate. So if we have policies, should we consolidate policies and procedures rather than having policies separate from procedures? So we can have all of that conversation, and I just wanted us to think of it along those lines. So that's all I have. And
So-
I'll open it up for editing for everyone.
That's great, Mina. Thank you.
I was just gonna ask, is the end goal for tonight just to take a look at this, this sheet that you put together, and are we working on it tonight?
To me, the goal is to take a look at it and just share some of these thoughts. And if this is making sense, the path around consolidation, the path around what is the effort and time that it takes, and how is it that it's aligned. So it's just a start of a conversation, and perhaps over the summer, we look to see how we could possibly, reconfigure some of this.
Okay.
And look at assignments and what is it that everyone's interested in working on in the upcoming year.
We could also
And I-
create another subcommittee. Mina.
The subcommittee
What?
to discuss
I beg your pardon?
subcommittees,
Sorry, we could also create another subcommittee.
to discuss the subcommittee.
That was kind of a joke.
Yeah, we need those laughs once in a while, for sure. All right.
All right, thank you.
Right. So with regard to the calendar subcommittee, is that time sensitive that you need that? I'm just,
Well, it sort of is. You know that we sent the letters out. They
Right.
went out to the faculty, they went out to students, they went out to parents. We have, I should say families, we have 4 faculty, one of whom will be the HTA rep. We have 4 students who are interested in participating. We have many parents, and Georgette reached out to clergy today. So I think if we wait until July 18th to,
we're pushing into the beginning of school.
we are
not
pushing
much
it
will
into
get
the
done over
beginning of
summer.
school, and I was really hoping to get some of this work, underway in the summertime at least.
Okay.
So,
Dr. Kavanaugh, do you know if Amanda expressed any interest in serving on that?
She has not, we communicated several times, she has not indicated,
Okay.
One way or the other.
right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I wonder if anyone present is interested.
I'd be happy to. We need one proponent of Karl Marx's birthday.
I was thinking we could have a Karl Marx subcommittee, that went through my head. if you were
Yes,
to-
yes, a Karl Marx subcommittee. New ways to celebrate that great man's day.
There we go.
so looking
if
for
you
a
want, go.
motion to appoint Meg then to be on the calendar subcommittee.
So moved. Go Meg.
Thank you, Meg.
Sure.
We'll do a roll call to be official.
You need a second first, though.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, sorry. So yes, so you moved that. I will second that. Meg?
Aye.
Yes.
I am also a yes. And Mina?
Yes.
Okay.
That is wonderful. Thank you.
Congratulations on your new assignment.
Why, thank you.
Thank you, Meg. And Dr. Kavanaugh, in terms of the term for this, I recall in your earlier memo that it ends on December 1st. Is that right?
Well, we are hoping that we have something in place by December so that we can make a recommendation to the committee so that next January, when you're adopting the calendar for 2021, that will be in place.
2021 sounds so far
It
away,
does.
and it's not.
I was in 1819 when I was in 1920 when I.
Well, I always thought you were very, futuristic.
Progressive. Yep.
So
And Nancy, you have a lot of experience, and I don't know how that could also be tapped from the previous.
I am
Calendar
happy
committee.
to share all of my notes from the first round, which may or may not be relevant this time around. You can decide that yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that then moves us into old business item A, which is the new website presentation from Mr. Ghosh.
Thank you.
This is really exciting.
I am excited. I know
I
you
can't
guys
wait.
have worked so hard with the subcommittee, and all the work that I know I have heard from Amanda has really been, you guys have really just been working, triple time or quadruple time even to get this up and running in time.
Yeah, there's been a lot of folks working in concert to kind of get us to where we are today. And I think in honor of Amanda, I think we're going to try to do more of a full-on display with fireworks later on when she can be here.
Yeah, she was
That'll
a
be
That's
honored
okay,
to miss
yeah,
that.
so-
Yes.
So I want to give you kind of primarily an update of like dates and
Right.
launch timeframes and what to expect, so the community has a good understanding of that as well. But then also to show you some of the pages and to give you a sense of what's going to be ready and what's coming out. But then if you would be willing to invite us back when Amanda's here, maybe at the end of July or August, once the school sites are up and live.
If you're free on
We-
July 18th.
Yeah, we can do that and come back if that works. So that would be the plan for tonight. So I don't think we're gonna go in depth of every single page tonight, and I don't think you want to see every single page tonight. So that's where we're at. So I think just to talk to the committee
you're
about
right.
dates, I think in the packet there was a memo from me just kind of highlighting some of the key dates. And the first, just so that the community knows and the committee knows, is that on June 25th, by kind of the end of the day, June 25th, our contract really with our current vendor, Blackboard, expires. And there's going to be a plus or minus of a few days, but that site will basically go down, which is our current main domain, or our hopkinton.k12.ma.us site. So that will go down on June 25th. On June 26th, our plan is to temporarily put up a site, which is this site called HPS Digital, which is our technology secondary site that we have. It's a blog more so of what we're doing in the schools, but we've posted on this site just some key links for the community to get to some things if need be in the rough week or so before the new site comes up. Okay, so from here they'll be able to get to primarily the online registration process. So if you're new to the community and we don't know who you are yet and we can't send you an email, they can come at least to the site and register their students for the district. At the same time, they can get into the parent portal to get access to the things that they need. And then there's basic contact information for all of the schools. So this site will be up in that kind of week gap to kind of hold us over until the new site comes up. So we will share this with the community, but the site will automatically be pointed to it. So when you log in and type in our address, this is going to come up. So we'll get basic information. So that's happening roughly on June 26th. On July 1st, the subcommittee is meeting. We are going to try to have a vote to approve the district homepage, which is pretty much ready to go, and you'll be seeing some of that tonight. So we're hoping for a vote on July 1st. July 8th will be the official launch date of the district site, where the district really goes public with the district pages, and that should be up and running by noon on July 8th. On August 5th, the school sites, which is all the main primary 5 schools that have their own sites with their own home pages, will go live on August 5th, roughly around noon. Then kind of between August and September, we have a warranty period, a testing period with all of the pages, all the sites with final sites. So we'll be going through, checking them. They'll be checking code, making sure all the bugs are worked out. If there's some changes, we'll make them as we see fit. Behind the scenes, we'll be updating pages still and adding more information as we get it. We do have some people still working to proofread and to check for spelling errors and grammatical errors and making sure everything looks good. So that will be happening all summer long. So there may be some things that aren't perfect, but we're trying to do our best to clean those up before we launch. So that's kind of the schedule in a nutshell. There are questions kind of about the schedule or the process to kind of get us transitioned over to the new site.
I have one that just came to me. I should have asked this in advance. So there are events happening, and I don't know the dates off the top of my head, but events at Hopkins, like popsicles on the playground, or for example. Is there a place where families will that information be on that transitional website, sort of a calendar of what's happening in the schools?
It isn't yet, but we can add it. So we can try to embed those school calendars, or maybe put links, since there are existing Google calendars.
Okay.
We'll add the links to those calendars on it. We haven't done that yet, but we will. It's a
Okay.
good suggestion. So
Miscellaneous
we can do
stuff
that.
happening at the schools,
Yeah.
for
No,
new
we're-
students. Okay.
that's a good tip. We're happy to do that.
Okay.
I'll make a note. Perfect. Other questions just about the schedule or the timing?
It's exciting.
Okay.
It is.
Done in 2 weeks.
I know.
We
Right.
just snap our
Just like
fingers and
that,
it just
yeah.
happened,
Just-
you know?
Definitely
So,
nothing happening in the background. Nothing.
Yeah, so
Mr. Ghosh won't be sleeping for the next 2 months.
Right. Exactly.
yeah, so we so let's just take a look. We'll show you kind of the home page of the district site. So what you're seeing here is the district homepage. We've got basically our utility menus, and you won't be able to see this probably from the screen, but across the top you'll have our schools, so you'll be able to click on and get to any of the schools. Then you'll have a direct link to a students and family page where basically everything you need as a student or family will be kind of all organized around one page. And then a link to the staff site. The staff site will be a login-based secure page where they log in, they have access to all of their links, all of the information they need, and things that we need to keep private on a portal type experience. We can do that on the sign-in page. So that's kind of across the top. And then there's a translate button built in, so you can kind of easily click on this and translate the website into a number of languages. And that's quite easy to do. And the real cool new thing is this Find It Fast button. So when you click on this, you get this overlay of all the kind of things that you need real quick. So lunch menus, online payment connections, news, directions, contact information, transportation information. All of that can easily be kind of found in one spot.
That's great.
So you can either go right to the families page, or you can kind of come here and quickly look something up. And this is a search bar. Not everything is completely kind of coded, but there's an advanced search functionality built in. So even if you wanted to type in like a policy, we haven't tagged every single policy yet, but you can quickly kind of type in names or short names of policies and then get to them quite easily. And you can do that even within Google. So if you know you want to look up the discrimination policy in Hopkinton, you type that into Google, it's going to automatically kind of go right to that page.
Right.
So this is an example of a policy page since we're going that direction. So this is every single school committee policy is its own web page. And so at the top, there's a little icon. You want to print it and get a PDF version. You can print it, or you can just view it as a web page. Down at the bottom, you can see where we tried to transition some of those boxes, and we took away the tables and put all those legal references and notes down towards the bottom. So it's not a box, but it seems to work. And then when you scale the website, when you go from this to like mobile, it scales nicely and you can read it all. If you keep the boxes or the tables in there, tables don't really scale well, and you can't really read it on a mobile phone. So by removing that, it's much easier to read on a mobile device. At the top, you can continue to search other policies, or if you want, we've organized policies on the right based on their categories, and you can just pick a policy and it will just switch and go to that policy that you want to see. If you want to go back to the home page, there's a home page button at the top, and this is the kind of the main landing page for all school committee policies. So we kind of matched the existing site, but we hopefully made it a little better.
Like 2 years on the policy subcommittee, this is like night and day. This is people can actually find a policy. This is incredible. This is much better.
You've got basic
Wow, look at that.
accordion drop downs to see them. You click on it, it goes away, and you can click the next one. So you can kind of quickly see which ones you want. And then there's tabs up top to switch to the other categories. So it's one way to easily organize a lot of content. And so, Megan, Georgette, myself, just within these pages probably spent, 40 to 80 hours of time to do just those things. So
Somebody needed to do that.
yeah,
We've
so
done it.
hopefully we're pretty excited about that. Hopefully that's going to be a big transition from where we are
It's
now
huge.
with
Great.
policies. So hopefully
Fantastic.
that's pleasing. And then, just to show you in a nutshell, if we had that first policy open and you want to translate that policy into another language, let's pick my dad's native language of Bengali of all languages. You just click that language and it translates the whole policy into that language for you.
That's
You
amazing.
don't have to worry about trying to figure that out with a PDF,
That's
which
phenomenal.
was a real problem before. So that we're pretty excited by, and we're happy to kind of see that. So back to the homepage, we've got these things called mega menus. So as you scroll across the top, an underline tells you what page you're kind of hovering over, and then you've got mega menus with all of the sub pages below them. So
Nice. Very nice.
yeah, so this is clean. It helps you kind of see things.
I know what they're thinking in that picture.
One way to organize it, employment as an example. All these are job postings. We took away the tables again. But when you click on them, it pops up the posting. And if you then want to scroll through all the postings, you can arrow over, and it will just go down the list, and you can read any of the individual job postings that are available right from the list. And then if you
This
click
is
on it,
so
you can print it
Sorry.
and download it.
That's
Sorry,
great.
Mina, go ahead.
No, I'm saying this is light years ahead of what we currently have. Truly, what a tremendous effort the committee has put in, Ashok. Under Amanda's leadership and your leadership and all the effort that everyone has put in. This is exactly what a district of our, standing should have as its face. So thank you for all the effort that you have sustained over a year now and put this forward. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This is fabulous.
I appreciate it. It was time, and so we were ready. And I think we were trying to meet those goals of mobile friendly, accessible needs, translatable, cleaner, fresher, and more modernized. And I think we're hopefully hitting that target. And just so you know, this is what we call a panel-based page. So you kind of see a lot of this up front, but you also then can scroll down, and you've got your calendar scroller here. So this will scroll 3 events at a time, or you can kind of click through them with the arrows, or if you click on the full menu, I'll get that in a second, it takes you to the full calendar where you have all sorts of choices. You can filter by the calendars you want to see, and there's a bunch of things you can do, print calendars, etc. So I'll show you that in a second. This is kind of our news and announcements section, which we've kind of had before. So you basically can hover over, you click on it, you'll get a little kind of pop-up of the details of the particular announcement. So this is for shorter snippets of news and announcements that the districts or the schools will have out. Below it is something we have called the highlights from the Hill. This is where you're going to see more of that blog type information, or where there's a little more language or content attached to each area. So for example, these aren't all mapped out of what we'll want to be, but for example, one of these right images might be like the student of the month. So instead of just a little snippet or announcement, you click on it and then you get the profile picture of the student. You get all the details of what was written up about that student. So you're allowed to go in a little more depth with some of the news and what's going on, either district-wide or at a particular school. The lower ones are actually little snippets. You have play buttons and they house videos. So we're going to connect to HCAM's video sets or district level videos. It opens up into a little video player and you can kind of see the content. So we'll kind of support a Hopkinton channel, we'll support the HCAM channels, and you can see a bunch of videos that are hosted on YouTube. That's awesome. That's pretty cool. As you scroll down, you've got some basic facts and figures about the district. These are changeable. We can add them, update them as they change. The schools will have something similar where they can update school facts. And then we have kind of a district level social media connection with Instagram, which will both flow 10 pictures through at a time. And each of the schools will have their own Instagram accounts at the bottom as well. So that kind of gives you, with a footer at the bottom. So that kind of gives you, this one page, as Carol can attest to, was many meetings and revisions, right? I think we went through, as you saw, some of the revisions, probably 6 different revisions to get the website, this is just one page, to where it is now. And so a lot of discussion, a lot of yes and no's and collaboration.
This is the face, though, right?
This is the face of it. This is the main homepage, and there was a lot of panels that each had to be designed, and so that's what we ended up with. So hopefully you like it, and if not, well,
It looks
We have
fantastic.
you're stuck with it for a little while.
It's too late to
I know.
No, it looks fantastic.
So that's, in a nutshell. I don't know how much more time we probably have to spend, but if there's anything else in particular you want to see, I'm happy to show you some of the district level stuff. But it's all there. I can make some of these links available to you shortly, but it's light years away. If you click on the curriculum overview, got a nice highlight, if you can see, of staff. So the normal trend will be kind of a navigation of staff and directory information on the right, and then more content on the left. So for example, if you were to go to the academics, the arts tab, you would kind of see basically department information on the right. So you have contact information, a district overview, high school level, middle school, and then elementary level. So that's how it's based at the district level. If you were coming at it from the high school level, it'd start on the high school page, you'd see the high school information first, and then you'd see the directory for the high school staff. So that's kind of the general layout of some of the department pages, which is pretty exciting, and they're still in development, but they're getting there.
I was gonna say, those are beautiful. I haven't seen those before.
Oh yeah,
Really
so
nice.
so they're coming along. We're pretty excited by it. And then when you do get to the high school level pages and the middle school pages, we've incorporated some of the details of the program of studies. So for example, if you're at the high school art page, you'll see visual arts, you'll see drama, you'll see all the courses. You click on it and a little accordion opens and you can see the description right there.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that is underway and is going to be visible on the actual pages. So we're getting there. I think that's kind of most of it in a nutshell. Some of the other pages that we've tried to organize for quick stuff like school hours, we've kind of organized by each school. You've got school hours, drop-off time, release times. You can quickly kind of grab that information or get to it from some of the quick links. So lots of different ways to do this. Same for directions. If you want to click on directions, we've got a picture of the building, a Google map. You click on it, you can type in where you are, and you can map right to the building. So we've done that for all the buildings as well. So we're getting there. I think we're close. The district pages are close. We'll be ready for the launch. A few more moving of pictures and touching up things and resizing things, but we're getting there.
Looks
So.
great.
It really looks fantastic.
Thank you.
And hopefully you get a little bit of sleep in the next 2 weeks. But
Yeah,
it's so
I mean,
amazing. It really is.
Yeah, I think we will, and I think we're getting close. So
I think
Great.
I think the community will be very impressed.
Yeah,
excellent.
I do think so too.
The change from the old to the new is significant.
Yeah, I think it'll be nice, and I think based on the data of like having 50% or a little less than 50% being mobile, it's hard to kind of see here. But even like if you scale, you'll get a sense when you scale like the browser of what will happen mobile. Like everything shifts and resizes. So instead of seeing one calendar event, now you just see one, and you can still click through and get to the others. So everything just kind of scales to kind of be readable still on a mobile phone, which is nice, or any kind of mobile device that you're using, which is helpful. So
Yes, and maybe a
Hugely.
shout out to Linda Henderson, Crystal Ho. I mean, he's got a great team
Yeah,
behind the scenes who have been,
yeah, they've been working around the clock. So yeah, Amanda obviously at the helm in terms of running the subcommittee, arranging the meetings, and setting all the dates. Georgette for helping book all of the dates in the rooms. Linda and Crystal and Stephanie in terms of our staff who have not only helped migrate the data. We even had some outside help from Olivia Harvey in photography. So she came in and took some photos and helped take some of these photos. And she's going to be back in the fall. So I think would like to reach out to all of you to still get some more photos of all of you this fall if possible to add to the site if you're willing to do that. So Olivia Harvey helped out. And then obviously the staff. Beyond that, the subcommittee, Kelly was a huge member of it, and Meredith. There's a number, and we should name each one, I think, when we have time, when Amanda's here, and kind of thank them all individually, but they worked hard.
Clearly,
So
Yeah.
hopefully it shows.
it definitely shows.
When are you having a party to celebrate? You need
Well,
that, a launch party.
Well,
will be
maybe
held on
July
school
18th is actually what I'm hearing is a possible
July
date.
18th.
So July 18th could be that day.
TJ's, not on school
Yeah,
grounds, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
look the informal launch.
Yes, yes.
So that brings us up to the next opportunity for public comment. I do not see any members out in the audience that wish to speak in the public. So that will bring us then into items by consensus.
Okay, so as superintendent, I recommend that the school committee vote to approve the items by consensus as outlined in the agenda.
I move to approve the items by consensus.
I will second.
And a roll call, starting with Meg.
Aye.
Jen?
Yes.
I am a yes. And Mina?
Aye.
Okay, so that will then move us into looking for a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, a roll call. Meg?
Aye.
Jen?
Oh, yes.
I am a yes. And Mina?
Yes.
Okay, so we are adjourned at 8:50 PM. Our next meeting is on June 28th, and I believe that meeting is going to take place in the library conference room. Is that right, Mina?
That is correct.
So, and I have an unavoidable or unmovable appointment, so I will not be there for at least the first hour. And as Mina will be remote, we will need another person to preside over the meeting. It probably makes the most sense to have Jen do it, since that would make you the longest serving, unless somebody else has
The
a.
veteran. Either way, it doesn't matter to me.
And I'm sorry, Nancy, I
Yes.
did reach out to Amanda.
Oh, you
because
did?
We were going back and forth about this particular item. And so she felt that she could help
Okay.
be the presiding officer.
Sure.
But if Jen is willing to do, I
No,
think
it's
that's
totally
fine.
Amanda.
That's-
If you've
yeah.
spoken about it,
As long as
let
somebody is
Amanda
willing to do it,
Yeah.
that's fine. So, and then I will join, hopefully by 11:30, but certainly by 12, if not.
Okay.
And then after that, we have our regular meeting on the 18th and then on the 15th. So thank you all and have a good night.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so much, Nancy.